Rain falls heavily as a little girl stands under a flickering streetlight, clutching a note and a crumpled handful of bills. A car speeds away, its red taillights disappearing into the storm, leaving Arya standing alone. Arya's small hands, gripping the last remnants of her family, a tattered backpack and a note. "Be good, Arya. We'll come back soon," her mother had said, kissing her forehead for what would be the last time. Her father had merely glanced at her, a mix of guilt and indifference clouding his features, before driving away into the stormy night. Arya didn't understand. She didn't understand why they had left, why they weren't coming back, or why they couldn't take care of her anymore. But in her heart, she knew one thing: she was alone. For days, Arya wandered the city, clutching her small backpack that held all she owned. She had no home, no family, and no clue where to go. The money ran out quickly. A few sandwiches, a bottle of water, and a cheap motel for one night were all it could afford. She slept on park benches, curled up in dark alleyways, and learned to avoid the dangers of the night. The world was harsh to a child alone. Shopkeepers chased her away when she lingered too long. Strangers either ignored her or looked at her with pity she neither needed nor understood. Hunger gnawed at her, exhaustion pulled at her small frame, but the worst part was the loneliness. She missed her mother's lullabies, the way her father used to ruffle her hair when he came home from work, before the fights started, before they stopped looking at her, before they stopped being a family. One evening, as she sat on the cold steps of a closed bakery, the scent of warm bread filling her empty stomach with longing, an elderly woman approached her. "You've been here for 3 days now, child," the woman said gently. "Where are your parents?" Arya lowered her head. "They went away." The woman's eyes softened. "And they left you alone?" Arya nodded. After a pause, the woman sighed and extended a hand. "Come inside. It's too cold out here." For the first time in days, Arya felt warmth, not just from the heat of the bakery but from the kindness in the woman's voice. Her name was Mrs. Thompson, and she was the owner of the little bakery that smelled like home. She gave Arya food, a warm blanket, and a place to sleep in the back room of the shop. It wasn't much, but to Arya, it was everything. The bakery's daily routine continues, but Arya watches, uncertain if she belongs. Mrs. Thompson was kind, but she knew she couldn't keep Arya forever. After a few weeks, she made the difficult call to social services. A social worker enters the bakery, clipboard in hand, as Arya's expression darkens. Arya rides in the back of a car, staring out the window at the life she's leaving behind. Arya was placed into foster care. At first, she resisted. She didn't want another home, another set of people who might leave her. But as time passed, she learned to trust again. The Carter family's home looms ahead, unfamiliar but strangely inviting. Arya's new bedroom is simple but warm, yet she refuses to unpack. At the dinner table, the Carters chat, but Arya remains silent, pushing food around her plate. A soft knock on Arya's door, as Mrs. Carter sits down beside her, waiting patiently. Arya watches TV with her foster siblings, half smiling at a joke she doesn't fully get. At school, Arya sits alone, feeling like an outsider once again. A teacher calls on Arya, but she hesitates, unused to attention. Slowly, Arya starts participating, her guarded expression softening over time. Years passed, and Arya grew into a quiet but strong young woman. At 16, she had learned to live without expecting anything from her biological parents. Then one day she got a call. Arya's phone rings, displaying a number she doesn't recognize. The social worker's voice is hesitant, delivering the news that her parents have been found. Arya stares at the phone, emotions warring on her face. Her parents had been found. The social worker explained that they had divorced years ago. Her mother had remarried and had another child, while her father had struggled with financial and legal troubles. Neither had ever come looking for Arya. Her mother claimed she had made a mistake and wanted to reconnect. Her father, broken and alone, said he needed her. For the first time in years, anger bubbled in Arya's chest. Not sadness, not longing, anger. They had left her when she needed them most, and now, after all these years, they wanted to be a part of her life. A montage of old memories, her mother singing, her father laughing, flashes in her mind. She meets her mother in a cafe, where everything looks perfect, except the tension between them. Close-up of her mother's wedding ring, evidence of the new life she built. Her mother, now a picture-perfect suburban wife, fumbled through apologies. I was young, Arya. I didn't know how to be a mother. I thought you'd be better off. Arya's expression remains unreadable, the anger bubbling beneath her calm exterior. Arya's father arrives at a dingy motel, looking broken and defeated. His hands shake as he lights a cigarette, avoiding eye contact. A silent moment as father and daughter sit across from each other, the distance between them vast. I need you, he finally admits, and Arya's jaw tightens. She stares at them both in separate scenes, realizing they are just strangers now. Neither of them asked how she had survived. Neither of them asked what she had gone through. With that, she turned and walked away, not looking back. Tears well in her mother's eyes, but Arya remains unmoved. Her father reaches for her hand, but she pulls away. You don't get to come back now, she whispers, her voice firm but shaking. She walks away from both parents, the weight of closure heavy on her shoulders. Sunlight filters through the Carter family's window, welcoming her home. Mrs. Carter embraces her tightly, no questions asked. Arya finally unpacks her bag, placing a small framed photo of the Carters on her nightstand. At dinner, she laughs, genuinely this time, feeling at ease. She joins a family game night, hesitant at first but soon fully engaged. She exhales deeply, then smiles, knowing she has finally found where she belongs. In the bakery, she helps Mrs. Thompson knead dough, now part of the family tradition. A montage of small, happy moments, birthdays, hugs, quiet afternoons reading. Arya, older now, walks past the old streetlight where she was abandoned, pausing but not lingering. Family wasn't about blood, it was about love, commitment, and the people who stood by you when no one else would. She was Arya Carter, a survivor, a fighter, and most importantly, a daughter who had finally found where she belonged.